joined us here today, and we'll be able to answer any questions that come in. Also, we'll see how we go for timing, and if we have any time at the end of the session, we'll be able to revisit some of those questions and anything addition that people might want to answer here today. And to make the screen a little bit bigger, depending on where you're watching at home, if you go to the three little dots on your top right section of the page there, you'll be able to click. So click on the dots there, and then about halfway down is an area called Focus on Content. That will expand the main screen that you're looking at and should reduce my little box quite significantly there with my face and put me down on the bottom right. So if you do that there, you'll just get the beautiful pictures on a bigger version. Okay, folks, we'll make a start. Okay, firstly, a bit about me. My name's Jeremy Van Heerde. I've been with Bunnik now for about 15 years and coming up to about 20 years in the travel industry. So pretty much all I know, really. So it's certainly sort of part of me and sort of running through my blood a little bit. I love to experience different cultures, customs, languages, and meeting new people, and working in travel and getting to travel firsthand really allows me to keep fueling that passion. So I'm very lucky to be able to do that. And after the last couple of years that we've all experienced, of course, it's so good to be once again dusting off the passport. I was lucky enough to get off to Korea. It was my last a couple of weeks ago, actually, and it was my first time back on a plane since March 2020. So I'd been like all of us, quite a long hiatus between flights, and it was great to get away again. But I must admit, I was a little bit rusty with the packing and the like, and a bit out of practice for something that we often did a bit more regularly. So it's great to see the world sort of finally opening up again. Okay, it's probably enough about me to start things off. We can now have more of a look at Bunnik Tours and what we're here to talk about today. So Bunnik Tours is an Australian family-owned business located here in Adelaide. We're experts in small group touring and have been running tours for Australians to Japan and Korea for over 15 years now. Our small group tours connect people, places and culture, which helps break down barriers, create lifelong memories, and best of all, shares the benefits of tourism with everyone. With over 25 years of experience, our aim is very simple: to provide a better way for Australians to see the world. And one of the key benefits of travelling with a Bunnik tour or on a Bunnik tour is our maximum group size of 20 Australian passengers. So we'll never surpass that number, so maximum 20, and that is for Korea and Japan that we're looking at here today as well. We also offer an inclusive product which is exceptional value for money and includes your international airfare, sort of flights included throughout as well. But it's the experiences had along the way that make Bunnik tours so special. So we really are more not just about ticking places off the list, but trying to interact and get those little experiences that you can with the locals along the way. And we'll touch on some of those today, which you get to do on tour as well. And having the balance of included sightseeing and free time is very important to us as well. So we really try to get that balance right, that you're not just go, and you find you do get a bit of extra free time for self-exploration and to catch your breath a little bit too. With COVID sort of coming into the mix as well, we've had to introduce a number of safe travel protocols that we've put in place and flexible booking conditions moving forward, as well as introducing a COVID safe travel task force, which is there on call if we need to, and to make sure all our trips all over the world and within Australia run smoothly. And on the slide here, you can see that the two Bunnik brothers, Dennis and Sasha there, which are really at the forefront of Bunnik Tours and what makes it such a great sort of family business, one to work for and also, of course, to experience the product and travel with all across the globe. Our tours are small, as we mentioned, the 20, but our vehicles are not. So while the size of your vehicle might change slightly, depending on the area that you're visiting, there'll always be plenty of spare seats. Giving you space to spread out and enjoy, make it easy to enjoy the incredible views that you see along the way. And you can see a bit of an idea in some of those diagrams on the slide there. Travelling in a small group saves so much time on and off the coach as well, when you get more time in the destination. So everything from a toilet stop to a lunch stop is a lot quicker with only 20 people, of course, rather than maybe 40 or 50 people having to exit on and off the vehicle at any one time. So it just speeds up everything and ensures you have more time in the destination itself. Our small group tours do provide excellent support with their expert tour guides as well. These guides are from the destination, so they're local guides, and are passionate about the home, sort of their home region. In a small group, you also get more one-on-one time with your guide, so you can ask more questions, and you have a very low passenger to guide ratio, so a lot easier to interact and really get to know your guides that you're with for the duration of the trip. But of course, most of all, you get to build sort of lifelong friendships with like-minded Australian travellers. So we're very lucky to have a number of clients and probably a number listening here today that have travelled on a number of Bunnik tours and really starting to see a very sort of large number of repeat travellers, which is excellent. By being in a smaller group as well, you'll get more one-on-one time, as we touched on with the guide, and the opportunity to ask more questions. And the guides are hand selected based on their incredible experience, passion, and really knowledge of their region. In Japan and Korea, Bunnik uses a combination of expert guides and local specialist guides. So it allows you to truly immerse in the destination. And what that means is you'll have one expert guide throughout from day one to day end. But then you might pick up a specialist guide at particular sites that will be able to have that expert knowledge on that sort of attraction or site that you're visiting at the time. And the guide's job is simple, just to be your fantastic guides. We have other staff to do the extra support, drivers and staff across the globe to take care of the rest, so you're always in safe hands. Being able to spend more time with your guide and learn from their personal experience, of course, is one of the best parts of being on a small group. Okay, getting to and from. So most of our tours include international flights from Australia and any applicable internal tour flights, and that includes these regions of Japan and Korea. So when we're looking to visit South Korea and Japan, we use the likes of Singapore Airlines or Japan Airlines. So you're always in good hands, but you can use anyone. So you can fly to Korea with Asiana, Korean Air, Malaysian Airlines, Cathay Pacific. There's complete flexibility there, so no restrictions. We mentioned that our airfares are fully flexible, meaning you can fly with anyone. You can also upgrade to first, business class, premium, do stopovers, change your dates and do some pre and post before or after the tour, or even fly home from other cities. So it's very flexible in the sense that no restriction of just doing the tour dates only. And our travel specialists here at Bunnik will be able to guide you through that process and put together any flight arrangements that you require. The benefit with Bunnik as well is you'll be able to call us straight away and get through. So we're very big on not having any wait time. So please feel free to call the team at any stage. Okay, so now we can have a bit of a look at what we do in these regions of South Korea and Japan. So what Bunnik tours have, we currently have 4 tours across the 2 countries, offering sort of multiple opportunities to see the iconic sort of countries and highlights throughout. You'll see that the length of the tours on average is about 2 and a bit weeks, and throughout the itineraries also a number of multiple night stays. We're very big on not having the single night and rushing through, so you get some extended time as you're travelling throughout these countries and really across the board with the Bunnik product range. And of course, cherry blossom season being very popular, you'll see a number of tour dates that do align with that time of year also. Okay, having a look at Japan first up, is a favourite destination for Bunnik travellers and Bunnik, and we've been offering tours there or running tours there since 2017. And that's over sort of, I think, coming up to about, 2007, about 15 years experience there now. Prior to our tours, we actually worked with a number of Japanese sporting groups that we travelled to Australia on a training camp in preparation for the likes of the Olympics or upcoming events. I think they, from memory, was soccer and cycling teams. So our relationship with Japan and Bunnik in Japan has been going for a number of years now and really going from strength to strength, which is fantastic. There's so many sides with fascinating Japan, of course. On our tours, you'll be able to immerse yourself in the hustle and bustle of Tokyo and Osaka, and travel to historic Takayama, and also immerse yourself in the Japanese art forms of such things as calligraphy classes and tea ceremonies and so much more. So we'll now have a bit of a look at some of the main go-tos in Japan and the main highlights that you get to view and experience when visiting. Tokyo, so one of the world's main economic centres, the capital city of Japan, of course, and a city that sort of represents a different view at each turn, really. It's got such a contrast. You've got very much a modern city, of course, starkly modern, with a bit of a glitter box at night with all the fluorescent lights and neon when once the sun goes down. But then around another street, you could sort of find a bonsai-lined courtyard of a traditional inn. So you've really got a bit of old and new still throughout the main cities, and a very fascinating city just to explore when visiting. When you're in the city of Tokyo, like any big city throughout the world, there's so many things to see while you're there. A couple of the main sites that we include with Bunnik and sort of a very popular on people's travel list include the Meiji Shrine. It's a Shinto shrine dedicated to the spirits of Emperor Meiji and his wife, Empress Shogun. And it's located in a beautiful forest setting, so it makes it really popular for locals and visitors alike to escape a bit of the noise and the big city life of Tokyo. Also, when we can see on the picture here, we've got an image of Shibuya Crossing, which is considered one of the busiest intersections in the world. And at peak times, we're looking from estimates, I think about 1,000 people cross it at any one time when during those peak hours of, I suppose, the morning rush and the evening knockoff. And on our tours, you get to experience that as well, to sort of wait for the lights and then head off to the other side. Another area where people often have on their travel list is Tokyo Bay. It spans the whole sort of length of Tokyo City and really comes into its own in the evening when the whole city lights up. As a welcome to Japan, what we do on our tours is we have a welcome dinner cruise while cruising in Tokyo Bay. So a really good first welcome when you arrive in country. And when we're looking at temples to visit, Sensogi Temple, it's a Buddhist temple in Tokyo, dates back to the 7th century, is one of the most popular in Tokyo. It's bright coloured, a really good, again for locals as well, you see quite a few locals there. But inside the city walls, you also have a 200-metre shopping street, the Kumsi Street, which is a great place for souvenirs. So if people are looking to get that souvenir shopping done early on, then Sensogi Buddhist Temple is a really good one to have on the list for the visit. Okay, we'll move forward and have a bit of a look at Kyoto now as well. It's one of Japan's most beloved cities. It's the ancient imperial capital, or was for about 1,000 years, and you had the emperor residing in all the elaborate palaces throughout. It's probably considered the country's spiritual capital today, and graced with the abundance of temples, pavilions, gardens and museums. And therefore leading on to that makes it a really popular visit for any tourist that's visiting Japan. So there's so much to see and do while you're there. It's still easy to find your own bit of peace and harmony in the city, even though it does attract sort of a number of tourists, of course. But it does deserve its time and needs its time to explore. So on our discovery program where we visit Kyoto, you do get a 3-night stay there. So to really give you as much time as possible to see all the highlights that are on offer. And just a couple of highlights that come to mind when you're visiting Kyoto. Fushimi Inari Shrine. A lot of people might have seen this in a lot of imagery when it comes to marketing Japan and Kyoto. It's dedicated to the god of rice and sake of the 8th century, but it's known for its orange torii gates. There's about 1,000 in total that wrap themselves around the base of the Inari mountain and make for fantastic images. I think we've used that image probably in some Bunnik brochures back in the past as well. When in Kyoto, another thing to tick off the list is to walk the Philosopher's Path. This was named after Nishida Kitaro, one of Japan's most famous philosophers, who meditated along the path each day while walking to university. So again, you'll see a number of people experiencing this while you're in the city. And Kyoto is a bit of a home to the Japanese tea ceremony. There's a number of different ceremonies that can be done depending on the occasion, and there's so much complexity, I suppose, that goes with each ceremony. But on our tours, you'll get to experience the traditions and etiquette that go with a tea ceremony. It's something we're really lucky to be able to include, again, with our small group size of just having the maximum of 20, where we can easily include this in our programs, which is fantastic. And the image that we've got here on the slide is a picture of King Kakuji Temple, or the Golden Pavilion, probably the most photographed or pictured area when it comes to Kyoto. It's a fantastic display of Japanese architecture, as you can see, and known for the top 2 levels that are completely covered in gold leaf. And then you can see that the setting is fantastic as well, so making it a bit of a photographer's dream and a must on any trip to Kyoto. And Osaka, where our tour finishes on the Discovery Tour. So you get great kaleidoscope of bright colours and traditions in Osaka as well. It was formerly known as Naniwa and was Japan's first recorded capital city, I think, as well. But number one, the people are going to sort of see or want to visit when they're in Osaka, it's going to be the Himji Castle, which is the most visited castle sort of in Japan, largest as well. It's a UNESCO site, and it's really known for its Japanese architecture that it has not changed since its construction in 1617. So it's made it through sort of the likes of World War II and the Great Earthquake of 1995 without having any major damage, which is fantastic. So you're sort of seeing some real living culture there, a real living structure that's unchanged. And in Osaka as well, quite a cool experience for our groups is you get an interactive samurai lesson. So I think the blades will be put aside. It might be more the wooden things that you use, but it's a great fun experience. And again, small groups allow us to do this. A really fun experience that people get to do when you're in Osaka before you're finishing the trip. So another one that we've got on the list for the Bunnik itinerary. And just shooting up north before we have a look at the tours, Sapporo, everything you'd expect from a big city as well. It's about the 5th largest city in Japan. Still great sort of restaurants in the evening, nightlife, plenty of shopping, but probably most known for snow really. In 1972, it became the first ever Asian city to host the Winter Olympics. And now its annual snow festival held sort of in January each year becomes really, really popular, and you often see the population of Sapporo double. When we visit Sapporo, we'll visit the Hokkaido Shrine, which is a real popular site. It was dedicated to Emperor Meiji, and ceremony was held to enshrine sort of 3 pioneering gods. What made it, I guess, a little bit different, it was constructed in 1870, but then was later renamed the Hokkaido Shrine thereafter. So yeah, originally just did a bit of a name change, but a real important site to see when you're in Sapporo. And the Otaru Canal, was a very popular port area in the 20th century when the city was bustling with as a port area. However, once modern technology was introduced, it became a bit obsolete and not required anymore, and it was about to be filled in and destroyed. But there was a really big movement by the locals in the 80s to protect the canal, and pleasingly that they got sort of everything overturned to stop destroying it, and it's now been restored into a beautiful not just a tourist area, but for anyone to go, with all the warehouses transformed into museums, shops and restaurants. So a great place to spend the afternoon, and that's where you get some time to explore as well when travelling, when you're Bunnik tour. Okay, so we've had a bit of very much a quick look at some of the destination areas, and now we can do a bit more of a look at sort of the Bunnik tours themselves. So Japan Discovery. We've got this tour starts at just under $10,000 there. You can see it's a 16-day tour and is inclusive of everything. So your return flights from Australia, bullet trains that we'll have a look at as well, sightseeing, special experiences, your accommodation throughout, and that is it. There's no optional tours or optionals that you would need to book on tour. Everything that is worth including is included in the program itself. So once you're there, you're done really. And here we've got the itinerary of the Japan Discovery. It's a comprehensive tour of Japan. You see it has 5 special experiences, multiple night stays. We include a night in a traditional Ryokan guest house in Hakone there, just after you leave Kyoto. And it's definitely our most popular program that we have within our Asia product, our Asia tours. So really, really popular. The itinerary itself gives you an in-depth tour of really the Golden Route, which was originally sort of Tokyo through to Osaka, and then we've of course added on the likes of Hiroshima and Takayama, but really good for, I suppose, maybe a first time or trying to get all the highlights of Japan in one trip. You'll get to sort of see Mount Fuji on this tour as well, and ride up the cable car from Hakone on the ropeway. Hopefully the weather gods are behaving and you get clear skies. If you do, it's an absolute magical shot, of course. We go right down to the southern area of Hiroshima, see the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park. We mentioned that you spend a night in the Ryokan guest house as well in Hakone. It's also where you get to experience the onsen or the hot springs, so having that time of leisure to have a soak and hopefully sort of wash those aches away. And how we get around in Japan is maybe a bit different to obviously the likes of other countries. We travel around on the Shinkansen, the bullet train system. So you can see a number of journeys there that are represented on the map. It's a really sort of easy and efficient way to get around, and takes you, of course, from city centre to city centre. And it's very much synonymous with travel in Japan, and it's something we include within our itinerary. So you'll certainly get that experience while you're travelling on this tour. Just a little thing to bear in mind, because of the space on board the trains, your main luggage doesn't travel with you. So that'll go by road in like your coach or a transfer vehicle, and then join you up at the hotel that evening or the next day. So on some days you will need to pack an overnight bag, and that will all be outlined in your travel documents and itinerary. So much is included on this tour, and I won't go through everything here today, but I'll just touch on some of the main things that you'll get to experience when travelling on the Japan Discovery program. You get to visit the Imperial Palace East Garden. You'll have a special experience where you get to watch a sumo demonstration, which is done by some retired sumo wrestlers. and then you get to dine with them and eat their traditional sumo lunch. So probably not something you want to have on your diet daily, but it's good to experience once and see the traditions that exist there. You'll get to walk through the Ginza district. We talked about doing this Shibuya crossing earlier and the dinner cruise. We've also got a sushi making experience, again, really going on with those small groups that we can include these a lot easier. You visit Matsumoto Castle, which is built in the 16th century, one of the premier castles again. So we're trying not to do too many castles, if you like, but you probably get 3 or 4 of the main premier historic castles on this particular program. We also do some soba noodle making class, a soba noodle making class on the way to Nagano. And when you're in Takayama, which is more of a historic and sort of a bit of an ancient area, we do a walking tour there, which allows you to really get amongst sort of a lot of the locals and make sure nothing's missed rather than just doing a bit of a drive-by. We'll get to taste some sake as well, walk the Philosopher's Walk in Kyoto, partake in a black ink calligraphy class. So you can see a lot of very heavy on the experiences, and something we're really trying to get our clients to immerse in the culture there and a lot of the local customs. That then flows on to doing the tea ceremony as well that we mentioned. You have a Buddhist temple lunch as well. It's almost something where vegan food might have come from. It's all very healthy, vegetable focused and sort of very light but delicious as well. And coming to the south in Hiroshima, we'll visit, as we mentioned earlier, the Hiroshima Peace Park and Museum. We also go to Miyajima Island and visit the Itsushikima Shrine, which is a floating shrine, and known also for its giant orange torii gate. That torii gate has been under construction for a few years now, but it is due to be completed at the end of this year, I believe. So all the scaffolding should be removed very soon, which is fantastic. And we'll have that samurai lesson that we touched on a little bit earlier as well in Osaka before finishing the program. Okay, I went through that very quickly. Colours of Northern Japan, having a look at another program that we have with Bunnik Tours. This is a great way to really see some natural scenery of Japan, all in one. See the price there, $9,395 for, again, a 16-day tour and inclusive of everything from your flights right through to your sightseeing. So on this itinerary, you'll experience sort of very scenic and historic diverse areas of Japan. And you start in the bright lights, of course, of Tokyo and the neon lights, and then you'll make your way up through Sapporo, through the likes of the Gabeki Gorge, Hirosaki Castle, and Matsushima Bay. So completely going in a different direction and seeing a little bit more. We often find, and it's not exact, of course, but we tend to see a lot of clients travelling here have maybe been to Japan before, and it becomes really popular with repeat travellers looking to see a different area of Japan. Also has a focus more on the outdoors and natural scenery, Mother Nature, a lot of botanic gardens, forests and lakes and rivers and the like visited. So we're seeing it become quite popular as well, maybe as a flow-on after the likes of COVID, with a bit more outdoors and less time in bigger cities as well. So it certainly offers that as you make your way north up into further into the country. Once again, we're using the bullet train system. You can see a number of journeys that we use there once again to make our way right up to Sapporo. And again, just works perfectly as a great way to get around. And we also get to experience the ryokan accommodation once more. And here you do a 2-night stay rather than just the 1 night that you did on the Japan Discovery. So you do 2 nights here in a ryokan accommodation. Big on the special experiences, all those interactive experiences once again. Here you get to do Wonko Soba noodle taste or noodle eating. It's where you get a small bowl of noodles in front of you, and once you finish that bowl, then it's instantly filled up once again. So a bit of friendly competition, come in and maybe see who can get through as much, but you won't go hungry for that day at all. Awesome colours. When people like to visit, the fact that it's a bit of focus on Mother Nature and the outdoors, we find that if people are looking for that changing of the colours, your reds and your yellows as the leaves start to fall off, October and November is a fantastic time of year for that, especially when you're making your way outside of Tokyo and up into the north. So if you're looking for that time of year, October and November is the time for you. You also have cherry blossom here as well. Cherry blossom actually starts a little bit later on this tour, around April and May. So in Japan, cherry blossom starts around January, right down south in the island of Kyushu, and then makes its way up north. So if you're wanting to avoid maybe, I guess, a bit more of the larger groups, perhaps of the May, March and April time of year for Tokyo cherry blossom, this is a good tour to look at to go a little bit later, and you'll still get that in the April and May period. And some main highlights that you get to experience on this tour, you get to visit the Meiji Shrine. We also have a new visit for 2023, which is the Digital Museum in Tokyo. It's an interactive light display, if you like, in a museum, very much modern Tokyo, but just a real wow and a real immersion once you walk in. So something a bit different, not quite the same to any other museum maybe you've visited in the past. We also wander through Ashikawa Flower Park. This is really known, sort of beautiful flower park at any time of year, but if you're into wisteria flowers perhaps, and the wisteria garden is in bright flower in April and May, so that's a really sort of quite a good following and very popular at that time of year. You'll cruise on Matsushima Bay, and for those that are game, if you like, you get to try the local delicacy of beef tongue in Sendai for a special dinner. But if you're not too keen, of course, we will find something else on the menu there for you as well, but just something a little bit different for those that are maybe a little bit adventurous. Other highlights as you start making your way up north into the country, we'll do a scenic cruise on the Quebec Gorge, which is a fantastic cruise, and really, again, for the colours, if people are looking for those red and yellows, that cruise is magic for that. We'll do some sake tasting and a brewing experience, visit a samurai museum, and we'll also walk through the botanic gardens of the Hirosaki Castle, and we'll do some tasting of Sapporo beer in the beer museum up in Sapporo. Okay, over to Korea now. For those maybe wanting to look beyond Japan, South Korea is right next door. So I guess simple question, why not? It's that the two work really well hand in hand. To me, South Korea is a country that is often overlooked, but it really is a jewel to itself. It's strongly represented on the world stage with the likes of Hyundai, or Hyundai as they call it, Kia, Samsung, LG, K-pop and kimchi. So just a few that come to mind, but there's so much more that are offered by the country. It really is a beautiful, clean and easy country to travel through, and it has so many of its sort of own sort of fantastic sites, including the capital city, Seoul. So with a population of over 10 million, as mentioned, Seoul being the capital, it's the heart of the economic, political and administrative centre, but it's also a fascinating city in the sense that you have the past and the present really overlap and just work so well together. And flowing on from that, located right in the heart of modern Seoul, is Gyeongbokgung Palace, which is set right next to your skyscrapers and everything else. It was built in 1395 and now a collection of museums and historic sites, and surrounded by beautiful garden and ancient stone pagodas right in the middle of the city. So just a really good contrast again. While we're doing our tour there as well, you'll also get to witness the changing of the guard ceremony, which happens a couple of times throughout the week. Another good site as a first visit to Seoul perhaps is Seoul's N Tower. It's located on Mount Namsan and it offers great views of Seoul below, panoramic views, and you also get a really good view of Seoul's fortress wall. Seoul is actually a fortified or a walled city, and very much has its walls still intact. So maybe not quite to the same scale of Beijing and the Great Wall of China, but it certainly is something a little bit different that is a bit unexpected maybe on a visit to Seoul and to South Korea. And another one that's quite popular on people's list when they're visiting Seoul, sort of heading an hour drive north, you have the option to do a DMZ tour, which we include on our South Korea in depth program. So I think we're coming up to almost 70 years now since the end of the Korean War, but the tours are still running and it's still a very moving visit for those that get the opportunity to go and experience the tour. So the tour goes for about 2.5 hours when you're up there at the DMZ, and you get to sort of go inside the third infiltration tunnel. You take a monorail down that goes for about 300 metres and have a bit of a look at the tunnel where the North Koreans were coming in, and then the South Koreans spotted them just I think 30 kilometres out or so from Seoul. And you get to go to the Dora Observatory lookout, which is where you get the fascinating look into North Korea. So hopefully, again, the weather's beautiful here for you, and this is where you get to see the two flags side by side, so that the red of the North and the white of South Korea on opposite sides of the river. So you can look in and quite a moving visit as well. Passports are required for your DMZ tour when you do it, just so you're aware, mainly for when you go in, you get checked off, and when you come out, of course, you get checked off as well. Okay, heading a bit further south in sort of in the country, we have the second largest city, Busan. It's a picturesque, bustling port city. It's the 5th or 6th largest port in the world, but surrounded by stunning mountains and the home of awesome beaches, sort of fantastic seafood, and a really popular spot for Koreans for their escape or their weekend getaways. So many different experiences. You've got fish markets to visit, great street food, hot springs, and just a relaxing area for sort of quite a nice beach there. We've got pretty good beaches here in Australia, so I wouldn't go there just for the beach, but it is a nice area to walk along the waterfront or the esplanade there. Just outside, or sort of quite close by to Busan, you have the UN Memorial Cemetery. This was a burial ground for the United Nations command casualties during the Korean War. Originally it had about 11,000 graves there, although many of the fallen soldiers were repatriated back at the request of their families thereafter. So there's only, I think, about 2,000, a bit over 2,000 graves remaining. It's the only United Nations cemetery in the world and includes an Australian monument, so we do have a short visit there while we're on tour. And 2-hour drive from Busan, you have Gwangju, which is a must inclusion for anyone that's visiting South Korea. Here it's the home of the UNESCO site, the Bulgaksa Temple. It's first built in 528 AD during the Silla dynasty, but it's a temple that encompasses 7 of the national treasures of South Korea and known for its 2 sort of pagodas and 2 bronze statues, which are very famous, but a great site to visit. I think we actually had it pictured on the, oh no, sorry, coming up in a couple of slides, we have a picture of it. Also at Bulgaksa Temple, one of my favourite experiences there is you get an interactive tea ceremony with Buddhist monks. So that there is where you'll get to sit with some Buddhist monks and learn their teachings, and it really is interactive. It's a 2-way conversation. So a great, do a bit of research to think of that why question that you'd like answered, and you can present that to the monk that you're speaking with. You'll certainly get a reply, but I must admit I'm still struggling to decipher the answer a little bit of what's come back, but a really cool experience. And again, something that you can only do in a small group. Gwangju is also home to the Tumili Park, which is a tomb complex. Here at the complex, there's a number of grass-covered mounds that each house a tomb inside. And you get to go in a couple of those tombs and see the treasures that have been excavated. Only a very few have been excavated since its discovery, I think, only in the 70s. Not quite to the same scale of Egypt, of course, but something a little bit different and maybe not one that you would expect on a visit to South Korea. Okay, Gwangju is Jeongju, is really a popular spot for food lovers. It's the home of the bibimbap dish, so that dish consisting of rice, meat, shredded vegetables that's then served in a hot or cold pot. Now found all throughout the country and throughout the world as well. When you're actually flying over to Korea, they'll often give you an English translation of how to prepare your bibimbap, so you don't embarrass yourself and you do it as the locals do, so you do everything in the right order. But if you want the authentic and the first version, Jeongju is where you get that experience. The city also will transfer you back to a moment in history with the hundreds of hanok, the traditional wooden houses that were lived in by Korea's upper class. So you can see them in the picture here. The hanok village is made up of around 800 of these traditional houses, and just located sort of behind the modern city itself. A great place for the afternoon to explore and just really enjoy the atmosphere on foot. So we give you plenty of time to get amongst there and explore it. And there's plenty of different sites and temples and things within there as well, but just a nice way to spend the afternoon. And here's a picture here of Bulgaksa Temple that we mentioned a little bit earlier. Looking now at the South Korean depth tour. So this is a 13-day itinerary, just under $7,000 there, and the same spiel that we mentioned before, inclusive of everything from your flights all through your sightseeing and transport. And does really highlighting the western and southern main points of interest in South Korea in just under 2 weeks. So this is an in-depth tour that allows you to witness sort of a country that is sort of mostly one of the most high-tech and industrialised in the world, but still maintains a lot of those traditional roots and living culture of the past. So we start in modern Seoul, and then we make our way down the more authentic and western region through to Gwangju. And it's here that we get acquainted with the Korean spa culture. Spa culture is very much still in popular or in use today. It's not something done by families and everyone. It's just almost what you're doing. Rather than playing golf, you go get a spa treatment. So you'll get that experience in Gwangju when you're travelling through on a Bunnik tour. And then we make our way across to the port city of Busan before travelling back to Seoul on the KTX high-speed train. So bullet trains exist also in Korea. They're just called something slightly different, but you're still doing about 300 kilometres an hour, so very, very fast. And some of the experiences that you get to have while you're doing the South Korean depth program, you'll do an interactive cooking class where you learn how to make kimchi, the side dish which you'll see or probably get served with every one of your dishes while you're in Korea. We visit some wetlands, so you get see some really good bird life as well on that tour. And when you're in Gwangju, once more, we have a traditional etiquette experience where you get to wear the hanbok, which is the traditional Korean clothing. So it's a really fun day as well, learning sort of a bit of a dress up and learning some of the local customs. Okay, we also have the combination of Discover South Korea and Japan. This is for those that want to explore Japan and South Korea and tick off all the must-sees on a 28-day tour. As mentioned, all your flights, sightseeing, everything included in one, and this one here priced at $15,495. It looks like a big itinerary and a lot to get through, but it's quite easy having a look at it. Is a combination of the two tours we've gone through already today, which is Japan Discovery and South Korea in depth. So what we've done on sort of some select departures is we've linked up the dates so that people can travel to South Korea first, do the South Korea tour, and then fly from Seoul across to Tokyo to join a Japan Discovery program. So you won't find it on every date. We've had those select dates that we've put into the touring range and proving more and more popular. So we might start adding a few more dates of these. But really, if people have got maybe the time available and want to see both countries, it's a great way to experience the touring. And the order works really well. I think Korea is probably maybe 20 years behind sort of the infrastructure, like travel infrastructure, whereas Japan's very busy with tourists and the like. So it works quite well to do Korea first and then come into Japan to finish off the program. Okay, that was a real quick fly through, folks. So that covers our Japan and South Korea tours in a very quick nutshell. But if you'd like more information, please feel free to visit our website. So that's bunnicktours.com.au. Here you can access blogs, detailed first-hand experiences of the locations we've gone through quickly here today. There's also a number of videos that show footage from our directors, staff and clients that have travelled on the programs and the locations that we visit on tour. Or alternatively, as mentioned, feel free to give the travel specialists here at Buzz. You'll be able to get through straight away if you have any specific questions at all for looking to travel to South Korea or Japan. Okay, so thanks very much for joining me today, everyone. Hope you've learned something new and maybe inspired you to look to head over to South Korea and Japan with Bunnik Tours. We look forward to welcoming you soon, either to these regions or somewhere else in the world. And I might just see if we've got any other questions that have come up in the chat. Otherwise, I'll let you get back to your day. I think that might be everything, folks. I can't quite see anything. Zoe might have been replying throughout the presentation. But as mentioned, if you have any further questions at all, please feel free to give us a call here at Bunnik Tours. And thank you very much for joining. Enjoy your day. Take care. Bye for now.